story opens with Maximo on the phone with his son Ander, checking if he's packed and ready to leave Barcelona once work is done. Maximo then drives out to a Colombian drug factory where he waits outside with his friend Rafa while his brother Lucero goes in. Inside, Lucero sits down with Romeo, the factory's owner, to deliver what's supposed to be a payoff. The deal? Romeo would back Lucero's father's bid to become the next boss of Europe's criminal empire. In return, Romeo only wants his son promoted to a top position. But while their father is on the road to the election hall with Lucero's sister Maria, Romeo opens the bag and finds not cash, but his son's severed head. Gunfire erupts immediately between Romeo's men and Lucero's crew. After mowing down several enemies, Lucero calmly instructs Rafa to call their father with false intel, claiming Romeo escaped and the election setup is a trap. Then he coldly orders Maximo to finish off not just Romeo's guards, but the innocent factory workers too. Maximo hesitates. He hates this kind of slaughter, especially against the unarmed. But his loyalty to Lucero's father, who raised him like his own blood, keeps him from refusing outright. Lucero then tells Maximo to disappear with Ander and start over, knowing their father will arrive at the factory soon. When their father does arrive, he's furious. Years earlier, he had sent Lucero to Japan to study the code of the Yakuza: loyalty, honor, respect. Instead, Lucero returned with nothing but their savagery. As they argue, Lucero suddenly snaps his fingers, ordering his hitman to gun down his father's guards, and even Maria. She realizes what's happening and barely escapes. With no protection left, Lucero turns his gun on his own father. He seethes with resentment, admitting he's always hated how much love was given to Maria and Maximo while he, the true son, was ignored. Mocking, he asks whether his father prefers a bullet to the head or the heart. Calmly, the old man answers, "The head." Without hesitation, Lucero grants the request and pulls the trigger. Moments later, he learns Maria managed to slip away. Meanwhile, Maximo returns home, embracing Ander. He unknowingly hands the house keys to the nanny, who secretly sells them to a mysterious man. That night, as Ander strums his guitar, he notices shadows moving inside the house. Maximo orders him to hide, but it's too late. Armed men storm in. Maximo fights like a lion, taking several down with his bare hands, until Finito sneaks behind and shoots him. Then in cold blood, Finito murders Ander right in front of his father's eyes. After the massacre, Finito rushes outside to report to Lucero, proudly confirming that Maximo and his son have been eliminated. It's then revealed that Lucero himself ordered their deaths. To erase any trace, Finito plants explosives and blows up Maximo's house before disappearing into the night. 2 years later, we meet a young man named Leo, who is spending time with his girlfriend Daniela. On the surface, he seems like a normal student, but in reality, he's secretly dealing drugs on his university campus. One evening, while walking together, they hear loud music echoing from an abandoned garage. Curious, they step inside and are stunned to see Maximo, still alive, relentlessly training his body and sharpening his martial arts skills. That night, Leo returns home and hands his earnings to his unsuspecting mother, who has no idea how he really makes his money. He even surprises his little brother with a birthday gift. Soon after, Leo receives a call from his supplier, Jero, a man who secretly works for Lucero. Jero orders Leo to push drugs inside Russian-controlled territory. Leo protests, knowing it's suicide, but Jero gives him no choice. Reluctantly, Leo tries selling several packs of heroin, but is quickly caught by Russian gangsters. They drag him into a deserted alley, beat him to a pulp, and warn him to never set foot in their area again, or he'll be killed. By sheer coincidence, Maximo happens to be passing by. Without hesitation, he steps in, unleashes his fighting skills, and drives the Russians away before vanishing into the night. Determined to thank his savior, Leo trails Maximo back to the garage where he's been living. Maximo reluctantly tends to Leo's wounds, and during their talk, Leo notices a guitar in the corner. He asks if Maximo plays, but Maximo explains that it belonged to his murdered son, Ander, and he hasn't touched it since. The memory floods back, the night he watched his boy die, and Maximo admits that ever since, his only mission has been to hunt down Lucero. The problem? Lucero vanished without a trace. The next day, Leo makes a bold request. He offers to teach Maximo how to play the guitar if Maximo will train him to fight. Surprisingly, Maximo agrees, starting Leo off with the basics of martial arts. Before leaving, Leo scribbles down his phone number and signs off with a hand gesture identical to one Ander used to do, leaving Maximo visibly shaken. Elsewhere, Lucero gambles with business partners and confides in Rafa that he plans to return to Barcelona, aiming to seize control of the mafia, which is currently under the thumb of the Russian mobster Dmitry. Meanwhile, back on campus, Jero pressures Leo again, demanding he return to selling drugs in Russian turf. Leo refuses and hangs up, but that night he makes the mistake of going near the Russian area anyway. Jero and his crew are waiting. When Jero spots him, Leo tries to escape, but is caught, savagely beaten, and left with a broken hand after Jero discovers Leo has been skimming money from him. The following day, Maximo is caught off guard when Daniela shows up at the garage looking for Leo. She explains that Leo had stolen money from his drug earnings and suspects Jero might be behind his sudden disappearance. Concerned, Maximo sends a message to Leo, arranging a secret meeting in a church. There, Leo comes clean about everything. Maximo then reaches out to Maria, asking her to help the boy, but Maria instead reminds him of their carefully laid revenge plan in the upcoming mafia elections. Later that evening, Jero and his crew storm into a Russian gang's nightclub, but Maximo has been shadowing him, determined to strike back on Leo's behalf. Inside, Maximo dismantles Jero with ease. When Jero's men rush in to help, one of them recognizes Maximo and flees in fear. Maximo methodically defeats the rest, finally snapping Jero's hand in the exact way he had broken Leo's. Afterwards, Maximo visits Maria's house to check on Leo's recovery, and even begins showing Maria some fighting techniques to prepare her for what lies ahead. Meanwhile, Finito arrives at Jero's home, mocking him for his humiliating defeat. Jero angrily blurts out that his attacker is known as the Gladiator. The moment Finito hears that name, he realizes the impossible. Maximo is alive. Without hesitation, Finito executes Jero, and then demands that his men track down both Maximo and Leo. Back at Maria's place, Leo recovers enough strength to insist on returning home, despite Maximo and Maria warning him it's unsafe. Reluctantly, Maximo escorts him. But when Leo arrives, his world shatters. He discovers that his mother, grandfather, and little brother have all been murdered. Finito is already there, waiting to finish the job. Just as Leo is about to be killed, Maximo bursts in and launches into a brutal fight. Though Maximo manages to overpower many of Finito's men, Finito himself slips away. Maximo hauls Leo back to Maria's home. While she tends to Maximo's wounds, he admits the harsh truth. Finito now knows he survived, jeopardizing their long-awaited plan. Maria, furious, fears their revenge may collapse. Meanwhile, Leo is drowning in grief, blaming himself for his family's slaughter. Overcome, he locks himself in his room, shutting out Maria's attempts to comfort him. Later, Maria warns Maximo by phone that Finito is gathering his forces. Prepared, Maximo arms himself and ruthlessly cuts through Finito's soldiers with precision. Afterwards, Maria provides him with critical intel. A man named Urquiza, who manages Lucero's vast money laundering operations, is holed up in a nightclub. Maximo wastes no time. When he arrives, the club is closed, but he doesn't care. He storms in, silently eliminating the guards and Urquiza's men one after another. Inside, he discovers that a large shipment of money is due to be delivered to Lucero within 20 minutes. As Urquiza tries to slip away, Maximo intercepts him, beats him down, and uses his phone to send a taunting message directly to Lucero. Taking the cash, Maximo leaves the scene. Not long after, Rafa arrives at the club, stunned by the carnage. Urquiza, barely alive, hands him a note and the phone Maximo had used, revealing everything. Meanwhile, back at Maria's, she tries to perform surgery to extract the bullet lodged in Maximo's body. But Maximo refuses treatment. His focus is fixed solely on one thing: Lucero's imminent arrival and the chance to finally end him. Worried about Maximo's worsening condition, Leo secretly injects him with an anesthetic, allowing Maria to finally extract the bullet. Meanwhile, Lucero arrives back in Barcelona and demands that Rafa take him to see Urquiza, since he hasn't received the answers he wanted. Upon finding Urquiza useless, Lucero murders him in cold blood. Elsewhere, Leo sneaks out of Maria's home after taking her gun while she sleeps. Using a tracker, he discovers Urquiza's location and arrives at the scene just as two men are preparing to dispose of the body. Leo raises the weapon at them, but before he can act, Finito steps in, striking him hard. Shocked, Finito hears Leo defiantly say that Maximo will come for him. Just as Finito's about to finish Leo, Maria suddenly barrels onto the scene with her car, ramming into Finito and pulling Leo out to rush him to the hospital. On the way, she desperately tries calling Maximo, but he doesn't answer. He's still unconscious. Unbeknownst to Maria, one of Finito's men tails her to the hospital and alerts Finito of her location. Around the same time, word spreads to the Russians that Maximo is alive, prompting them to order Finito to eliminate him immediately. Back at Maria's house, Chulmu enters, only to be met by Maximo, who has finally regained consciousness. Chulmu insists that Maximo should take his father's mantle and lead, but Maximo, now living for his son's memory, has sworn to leave crime behind. His only devotion is to bringing down Lucero. Their clash turns violent, and after a brutal fight, Maximo stabs Chulmu when his words push him too far. Maximo then heads straight to the hospital to check on Leo before setting out to confront Lucero directly. Rafa, realizing Maximo is closing in, warns Lucero of his approach. Maximo cuts his way through Lucero's men relentlessly, and when he encounters Rafa, the two briefly unite against Lucero. But their stand is cut short when one of Lucero's guards throws a grenade, killing Rafa in the blast. Finally, Maximo and Lucero come face to face. Lucero reveals his twisted reasoning. All his hatred stems from believing that their father had loved Maximo and Maria more than his own flesh and blood. A savage duel erupts between the brothers. Just as Maximo gains the upper hand, Finito reappears, holding Maria hostage. The distraction allows Lucero to overwhelm Maximo. Maria attempts to fight back against Finito, but collapses after being struck. Lucero commands Finito to kill Maximo while he prepares to execute Maria. But in a last surge of strength, Maximo rises, delivering a single deadly blow that kills Finito instantly. Maria regains consciousness and lunges at Lucero, while Maximo joins in, unleashing his fury. Together, they overpower Lucero, Maximo finishing him with a stab to the chest, followed by a bullet to the head. With Lucero finally dead, Maximo and Maria regroup, retrieve Leo from the hospital, and take hold of Lucero's fortune, closing the bloody chapter of vengeance. Like and subscribe for more recaps like this.